Hello everyone, I'm Kendra, aka Can Ronell on the internet, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a new mystery from Hallmark Mystery called Jazz Ramsey K9 Mysteries. This is the first of 2 new mysteries in the month of August, and I'm really excited about, so let's get into it. So as always, before we talk about any spoilers or the plot or what I liked or didn't like, we're going to talk about the synopsis. So when Jazz Ramsey and her crime detecting dog Zeus stumbles upon an old crime scene, the canine trainer, her star pup, an ex-boyfriend, and Detective Nick Kosif, I think that's how you say it, are thrown into the investigation. Is this the stereotypical Hallmark mystery? Does it follow the formula? In my opinion, I think that it does. And so when we think about Hallmark mysteries, we think predictable plots, right? So the typical plot line is a murder happens. An amateur detective decides that they want to jump in and try to solve the mystery. The lead detective, or the second lead of the movie, is likely either on board with this or not. And then there's also a little romance sprinkled in there. Though I think the way that this movie is a little different from the typical plot is Jazz and Nick are exes. There's also a focus on character development. Typically the movies go slow enough where you can get some history on the characters, but then also fast enough where you can get go into the mystery. And we see that happening here, right? So we understand who Jazz is, we know what happened to her dad and why she decided to get into training canine dogs. And then of course it leads with a happy ending. The mystery is solved. The 2 leads are on better terms than when they started the movie, and in all of those ways I think Jazz Ramsey follows the script to a key. So I also like to get into themes and messages that I get from the movie, and so for this movie I saw 2 themes happening. The first is life after loss, and the second is second chances. And so with life after loss, we see that Jazz is still coming to terms with the loss of her father because it was an unexpected death. And so while she is still kind of grieving her dad, we see her mom, on the other hand, kind of moving on, right? Her mom has this new friend. You know how the old folks like to do. They never call them their SO, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend. They say, my little friend. And so we see that her mom is starting to move on with a new friend who is also a man. And Jazz feels a way about it because she's still kind of grieving the loss of her dad and hasn't really moved on in a way, because she's still very angry with Nick because he ain't show up for her like he should have as a boyfriend. And so, but we'll get into that a little later. And so I think there's some tension there between Jazz and her mom because she's moving on and her mom is moving on and she's not. Another we also see life after loss with Bernadette and her daughter and husband. So Bernadette is obviously the teacher in this movie that people have very strong opinions about. They either love her or hate her. There's no one in between. And so Bernadette lost her only family, well, not her only family, but lost her husband and her daughter in a car accident they were all in together, and she did not handle that loss very well. And then we also see Jazz and Nick, like I said, I alluded to a little earlier. After the loss of her dad, Nick was ghost, essentially. He said, I'm out. And didn't show up for her the way that she needed him, or even just showing up. Like, you don't have to know everything about grief is hard, loss is hard, and so there's no right way to do either. And so the fact that you would just not show up for your girlfriend is just like, you deserve that axe. And so we see them kind of working through that a little bit when they have to work on this case together. For the second theme, second chances, we see with Sam, who is a suspect in the death of the body that we find at the school. Sam is Bernadette's cousin, and so we see him getting a second chance with Bernadette decides to leave and ask him to house sit, which is giving him a second chance because he was unhoused, right? Allowing him to basically kind of start over with a new place to live and to just kind of build a routine for himself and try to get back on his feet. We see how he's handling that second chance he's been given. And then with Deidre, aka Sarah, whatever her name is, the dead body, we see that she was the cause of the accident because she was the drunk driver that caused Bernadette to lose her family. And so we see after that accident, she changes her name and she kind of just starts over and starts to pay atonement for the deaths that she's caused. And so she becomes a lawyer and tries to help people. And so we see how she uses her second chance. And then with Nick and Jazz, we see they hadn't spoken to each other since her dad died. And so we see them potentially rekindling a new thing, even if it's not romantic. They are talking again because they were friends, obviously. And so they are getting a second chance at getting to know each other again because it had been a while. I don't remember how long it had been since, her dad died, but it had been a while. So, my opinion. So I know y'all like to tussle, but I did not love this movie because it crawled to the finish line. Like, I don't know what was going on with this movie, but I just felt like it was a turtle marching through molasses. Like, I kept looking up and I was just like, we're not even halfway through this yet. Like, what is going on? I also, like, as I was watching this, I started to nod off a little bit and I was not tired at all. And I was fully rested. So there was no reason for me to be nodding off, but I was nodding off. That's how slow it was. So I didn't love this movie at all. So while I didn't love it, because it moves so slowly and it didn't start picking up pace until I started connecting the dots of Bernadette versus Sarah / Deidre and Maddie. And so once Maddie came into the picture about like, oh, okay, the mysteries about Maddie, like she is involved somehow. That's when it started picking up for me. But even though it did pick up, I will say that I did not guess like the ending. And I think it's because I wasn't paying attention because it was just so slow. And I feel like if I was actually paying attention, I probably could have figured it out. I'll give them this. Of everything else of this movie, I will give them that the mystery was a little more difficult to solve for me. So on a mystery scale from 1 to 5, I would give this a 2.5. Like I said, I didn't love it. It was kind of boring and slow. The only redeeming quality about this movie was the mystery. It was a little confusing. Yeah, so this is, not one of my favorite movies this year, but that's okay. At least we got some new ones, right? Can't complain about not getting new movies because we got some new ones. I would potentially consider, if they decide to make another movie in this series, I would consider watching it because I think it has a lot of potential. It's just the first movie wasn't good to me. So that's it. That was a quick one because it wasn't my favorite, so it was easy to kind of get through and talk through everything that went on. So thank you for joining on this review of Jazz Ramsey K9 Mysteries. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and like and subscribe. Follow me on all things social media at CanCanRonell. And I hope to see you next time for another review. Take care. Some hijinks occurs. Kosov. I think that's how you say his last name. Kosov. Kosiv. Hello, mystery enthusiast.